It's Tuesday, April 6th, and this is now on HNN.
Pop, 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 pop. I thought it was firecrackers.
The investigation continues into a police pursuit and officer-involved shooting that left a teen dead.
We believe that the vehicle rammed two marked police cars.
We're moving that date up from May 1st to April 19th nationwide.
President Biden announces a new target in the race to vaccinate. I'm Natalie Brand at the White House with the new goal, plus an estimate on how many teachers have been vaccinated.
Hawaii vacation rental occupancy rates outperform hotels, and some new rules appear to be in the works.
Well, who's going to do that? And what does that mean?
These stories plus Iolani Palace is getting a financial lift today. That's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. Ashley and Jonathan here joining you from the HNN Digital Center. We begin with some breaking news on that latest case counts.
That's right. The Hawaii Emergency Management Agency is reporting 61 new COVID-19 infections today and no new fatalities. We'll have that breakdown for you by island on our HNN digital platforms. Meanwhile, this story is gaining a lot of traction on our HNN digital platforms. An investigation continues into a crime spree that led to a police pursuit from East Oahu to Kalakaua Avenue and ended with an officer-involved shooting that left a 16-year-old dead yesterday afternoon.
And I heard 5 gunshots. And I said to my wife, that sounds like gunshots. And I said, but it can't be. And then literally 30 seconds later, I heard sirens galore.
Honolulu police said 5 suspects were taken into custody following the incident in Macaulay around 5 p.m. In a news conference last night, Police Chief Susan Ballard said the suspects ranged in age from 14 to 22, and some have prior convictions.
One male was critically wounded, and a second was seriously injured. A third male was taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries that were consistent with a motor vehicle collision. A fourth was taken into custody. The fifth and sixth suspects were located away from the scene and taken into custody. The driver, who was treated at the scene and was transported in critical condition and later died in the hospital. He was 16 years old. The male who was seriously injured is 18. The remaining individuals were 14, 16, 17, and 22.
There were no weapons recovered at the scene, but Ballard said a search of the area is still underway. Meanwhile, we learned that 3 officers discharged their weapons. They have between 3 and 10 years of service and will be given administrative leave, which is standard procedure.
We believe that the vehicle rammed 2 marked police cars and crashed through a chain-link fence and went into the Kalakaua Canal. During this time, officers fired multiple shots at the vehicle. Some of the occupants ran from the canal and were chased by the officers on foot.
We also know that the shooting happened following a police pursuit that started in East Honolulu.
District 7 patrol officers located a white Honda Civic that was reported stolen from Kailua on Saturday. This same vehicle was later linked to a burglary and car theft in Kaimuki, a purse snatching in Waikiki, and about 20 minutes before it was located, an armed robbery at a Mo'iliili residence where victims reported 2 guns were used. Officers located and pursued the vehicle as it left Kawakui Beach Park and sped westbound on Kalani'anaole Highway, the H1 freeway, and Kapiolani Boulevard. The vehicle drove into oncoming traffic before being blocked in by officers near the intersection of Kalakaua Avenue and Phillip Street.
Sammy Salina was at the crash site today and filed this report about what she saw.
We're on Kalakaua and Phillip, and this is where that pursuit came to a violent end. Eventually, police managed to stop that car here. That car, police said, actually rammed through officer cars and managed to land themselves into this ditch. This is where exactly the shooting happened. This is what residents saw last night.
I was watching TV. It happens about few minutes before 5, and I heard approximately 4 or 5 pop, 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 pop. I thought it was firecrackers. And then I came to the balcony, I saw police officers across the street looking down to the stream. And the police officers screaming and saying, "Don't move, don't move."
To hear this was like I'm speechless. And so I came down here and I didn't know that the poor kid had lost his life until this morning.
We are working on getting more information as officers continue to investigate. Sammy Solina for This Is Now.
Stay with Hawaii News Now for continuing coverage on this story. Our team of investigative reporters are working their sources now to get new details, and will bring it to you on later editions of Hawaii News Now and on our H&N digital platforms.
Now to another still developing story. Authorities say a Navy medic shot and critically wounded 2 people at a Maryland business park. Femi Redwood has new details.
The military confirms it was a Navy medic who opened fire at a business complex near Maryland's Fort Detrick.
Our shooter today, our suspect has been identified as 38-year-old Fantahoon, middle name Gurma, and I'm going to spell the last name for you. WOLDESENBET.
Frederick police say the suspect used a rifle to shoot 2 sailors at a military institution at the Riverside Tech Park, then drove to the Fort Detrick base about 10 minutes away. He made it through a gate and onto the property before being confronted and killed by base personnel.
They were able to stop him in a parking lot. He then brandished a weapon, and our police department was able to neutralize the subject.
The 2 victims were airlifted to a Baltimore hospital.
I just want to send the city's wishes to the families of the victims in the hopes for quick recoveries.
Police said there were no remaining risks to the public, but described the incident as terrible and tragic, something that's becoming all too frequent.
Every time we turn on the TV, we're seeing something like this happen, and now it's happening in our backyard, so no one wants to see this type of thing.
The Navy confirms the shooter was on active duty, assigned to the Fort Detrick base. Police continue to investigate a motive for the violence. Femi Redwood, CBS News, New York.
Hawaii's vacation rental market has outperformed hotels in occupancy rates in every month since October. The Honolulu Star-Advertiser reported that vacation rental owners across the state have said the higher demand was prompted by pandemic-related attitude shifts that prioritize space and seclusion for getaways. Hotel services such as daily housekeeping and valet have also been reduced amid the pandemic. The dramatic increase in demand happened as some counties attempted to regulate the industry. The city's Department of Planning and Permitting is holding a hearing today on ways to regulate and register short-term rentals on Oahu.
Questionnaires were only submitted about a month ago, and it will take time to evaluate them. The general feeling is that we must have short-term rentals on North Shore for the surfers. This is not a residential area. This is a second home area. Having thousands of second homes sitting vacant does not produce any economic benefit for the North Shore community. A recent study pointed out almost 300 jobs are dependent on the North Shore vacation rental business, primarily catering to surfers in the wintertime.
DPP is required to adopt rules to limit the number of vacation rentals outside of permitted areas, such as the resort destinations of Waikiki, Ko'olina, and Turtle Bay. The department said it expects to review comments from the public hearing and adopt a final draft before August 1st.
New at noon, the president just announced that the deadline for every adult to be eligible to receive a vaccine is being moved up. Natalie Brand has those details from Washington, D.C.
The administration reached another milestone in its race to vaccinate.
Yesterday, we crossed 150 million shots in 75 days, the first 75 days of my administration.
President Biden is once again moving up his target date for getting all adult Americans signed up for a vaccination.
We're moving that date up from May 1st to April 19th nationwide.
Most states have announced they will make all adults eligible this month, but demand continues to outpace supply in many places. The White House still says there will be enough doses for all Americans by the end of May.
I believe by the end of the summer we'll have a significant portion of the American public vaccinated.
Earlier, President Biden toured a vaccination site in Northern Virginia. Meanwhile, the vice president toured a vaccination site in Chicago set up for union members.
We're all here to make a statement that we understand the significance of getting vaccinated, that it's bigger than us.
The White House is also sharing new data about how many teachers have been vaccinated, following the president's goal last month that all teachers receive at least one shot by the end of March.
According to CDC estimates, over 80% of teachers, school staff, and child care workers received at least one shot by the end of March.
Educators have been prioritized in the federal pharmacy program. The administration set an April 19th deadline to more than double the number of stores in that program, bringing the total to 40,000 pharmacies distributing vaccines. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Now to an update on a story we first told you about yesterday on This Is Now. After just 4 hours, the city's new rent relief program was suspended because so many people applied. We're told about 8,000 applications went into the system. The city is using $114 million in federal money to fund the program, which can pay back in future rent and utilities. Gavin Thornton is the executive director of the Hawaii Appleseed Center and talked to our Grace Lee about this issue this morning on Sunrise.
Thousands of people are applying for rent assistance. Just how bad is the problem right now, a year into this pandemic?
I mean, obviously, it's pretty bad when 8,000 people apply in just the span of 4 hours. I mean, the U.S. Census Bureau says roughly 10% of adults in Hawaii are behind on rent or mortgage payments. That's, upwards of 60, 70,000 people. So it's a lot of folks that are struggling.
For this particular program, we're talking about $114 million. To me, that sounds like a lot of money that it can help a lot of families. But is that just a drop in the bucket, in your opinion?
That is the worry. I mean, this program is huge. Like, I've never seen anything like it. Usually for a rent relief program, you'd have a few $1 million to cover a year. So having over $100 million is really, really huge. Hard to administer a program like that, but vitally important for Hawaii's people who are struggling so much because of the pandemic.
There are certain restrictions to this particular program. Can you explain what those restrictions are, and do you think they're fair, or are they too limited?
I think the restrictions in place should probably work out. There are income limits, so you have to be at 50% or below of what's called the area median income. Basically, if people are unemployed, they're not going to have enough income to pay their rent, and so most likely they're going to qualify. That's the primary restriction. It's really designed to ensure that the relief gets to the people that need it most.
So for these particular programs, is it hard because sometimes they ask for certain types of documentation? Is it hard sometimes to get the right documentation in order to benefit from these programs?
Yeah, so that's one of the big challenges. There was a huge rent relief program that the legislature passed last year that distributed over $60 million to about 13,000 households. One of the barriers with that program was getting all the documentation. It took a while to process people's applications. We're really hoping that this time around, with this new iteration of a rent relief program, that those barriers will be a little lower, that the applications will be processed more quickly, and that we'll be able to get that funding to the people that need it urgently.
Gavin, any idea if there is more money in the pipeline? Because clearly there is an overwhelming need from people here in Hawaii who need rent assistance.
Absolutely. So, the $114 million is for Oahu only. The other counties in the state have their own pots of funds to implement rental assistance programs, which should be coming online soon. And then really, I would hope that our policymakers would be able to keep some money in reserve in case additional funding is needed.
Finally, an airline problem that can't be blamed on COVID, but as Howard Dykes reports, you can blame it on Google.
It was early afternoon Eastern and Central Time when booking systems crashed at Delta, American, and United Airlines. All three used the same software made by a Google division that was so flustered it forgot to say when the problem was fixed, saying only that it was mitigated. In other airline news, American Airlines puts its biggest jets where its biggest hopes are. It will use wide-body Dreamliners on some summer flights to Maui and Honolulu. Alaska will also be getting some American big birds for people set on seeing Alaska who still won't be able to take a cruise there. And Japan Airlines retires all 13 of its Boeing 777s with Pratt & Whitney engines, the same kind that gave United a debris-shedding engine failure just a couple months back.
So there's been an ongoing dispute over parking and potholes on privately owned streets in Kaka'ako for some time now. Residents and businesses complained that a private company was not maintaining the roads. We just got an update on this situation from Mayor Rick Blangiardi and other officials.
We are going to be fixing 5 streets in Kaka'ako, so they're all in a lot of disrepair.
This has been years in the making. You know, about 6 or 7 years ago, we began to receive complaints from residents and businesses who were being forced to pay for parking, whose access was restricted to these roads. And the legislature and the city council worked together. We passed some laws over the years to try to address this issue. Fortunately, the circuit court ruled in the favor of residents just a few months ago, which has led to what is happening today, where the city will begin maintenance on these private roads.
And that's House Speaker Scott Saiki there speaking about his district. Let's get to some other news, right, Ash?
That's right. So Iolani Palace has been losing up to $80,000 a month because of the pandemic and a lack of visitors, but the nation's only royal palace is receiving some financial help.
Kind of is that neat tie, and we always find these unique ties with the palace and with our ali'i, with her people. And you know, eating with impact, it's food sustainability, which is so important for our island and our community, but it's also sustainability for our cultural resources, for these beautiful, beautiful, precious places that tie us back through eternity to our people. And so it's eating impact in more ways than one.
And that's Paula Akana. She's in charge there over at the palace. Now, Kamehameha Schools and Kaunamano Farm presented a $10,000 check just a short time ago. It was part of the Eat with Impact fundraiser campaign to support the ongoing operations at the historic landmark.
All right, let's take you outside. Things are really bouncing around in our live video feed coming in from our downtown tower cam. Let's get you over to Guy Hoggy with an update.
How's it on this Tuesday? We're looking at really nice weather. Granted, it's going to be a little windy, and those winds will push in some windward and mountain showers, mainly for the east end of the state. Light to moderate rainfall totals. These are the spots that are going to get by far the lion's share of the rain. But everybody's going to get roughed up by those brisk and breezy trade winds, except for Kona and Hilo. Up in Kauai High, though, and down in South Point, they'll get those strong winds as well. So we're in for a very beautiful day today, but that will include a few light passing showers for those windward areas. Leeward sides will see lots of sunshine, high temperatures into the upper 70s, lower 80s, and what we see today will likely continue through tomorrow. The difference from today and tomorrow being a big swell rolling into north and east shores. Not a great direction and bumpy conditions on the east side. And heads up, box jellyfish still swimming into south and west shores. So again, a beautiful run of trade wind weather all the way probably through Friday. And then on Saturday, we lose the trade winds. So there will be some windward and Mauka showers from time to time through Friday. And then on Saturday with the light winds, maybe a few afternoon showers. Keep it here on Hawaii News Now. We'll have all your severe weather updates.
Actually, I got a From the Feeds update I'm excited to tell everyone about. Okay, remember a while back we were talking about this very unusual item that was up for auction, George Washington's lock of hair. Yeah, well, it finally went to the auction block and it sold for nearly $40,000. The strands of hair had been stored in a handmade brass and glass locket for years. They believed it was removed from Washington's head around 1799, close to around when he passed away. I always thought he wore a wig, but maybe he had some original hair under there somewhere. The bidding started, and 45 bids later, it reached exactly $39,921. You know, this was a really common practice back then. I know this from my Antiques Roadshow skills. A lot of people collected here. They made all sorts of decorative items, including frames and, of course, lockets like that.
I actually thought it would have gone for higher.
Me too, especially if we get some Jurassic Park skills. We can bring back George Washington someday.
And so this is something else we've been following here on This Is Now. NASA's Ingenuity helicopter survived its first night on the freezing cold surface of Mars. So this is an image of the helicopter as seen by the Perseverance rover. They're both in Jezero Crater, an ancient lake bed on Mars. Now, temperatures there can drop to negative 130 degrees. That's low enough to do significant damage to the helicopter's electrical and battery components. Now, Ingenuity has 31 Earth days to conduct up to 5 test flights. The first test could be done as soon as April 11th, and Ingenuity will attempt to rise about 10 feet in the air, make a turn, and touch back down. Doesn't sound like much, but that's a lot on Mars.
Yeah, and couldn't we get him a little helicopter blanket or something? That's some cold temperatures he's dealing with there. Can't wait for those developments to happen over the course of the month, though. All right, got another update for you, and it's about America's favorite condiment, ketchup.
Yum.
Yeah, there's a shortage of ketchup. We talked about the shortage of toilet paper last week. Well, you know, the pandemic caused this one as well. That's because a lot of food services, restaurants, and such depended on takeout, which caused a shortage of ketchup packets, which in turn had restaurants pouring them into little cups, which caused a shortage of the bulk ketchup. Yes, so get this, the cost of a little packet of ketchup has risen more than 13% since January of 2020, but I'm told Heinz is working to boost their supplies in order to produce 12 billion packets this year.
I love ketchup. It's my favorite condiment by far.
I'm a barbecue sauce person.
I use obscene amounts of ketchup
Really?
on my things. Oh yeah, it's disgusting.
You're like my dad. He'll put it on anything. Really.
Yeah. Kim Kardashian West, you guys, is now a member of Forbes' annual billionaire list for the first time. So Forbes reports Kardashian's makeup line, KKW Beauty, is worth about $500 million. She also has a majority stake in her shapewear brand, Skims, which is valued at $500 million. So those assets plus her television show and endorsement deals are enough to lift her fortune to $1 billion. Kardashian is not the first one in her family, though, to make the Forbes billionaire list. Her younger sister, Kylie Jenner, was named the youngest self-made billionaire at 21 years old. Although critics do argue Kylie can't be considered self-made because she comes from a wealthy, well-known family.
All right, we got an update what celebrities are doing, coming together to honor our friend Captain Tom. Here's what Ian Lee has to report.
Captain Tom Moore stepped up during the darkness of the pandemic, walking laps around his backyard to raise more than $53 million for the UK's National Health Service and inspiring millions around the world.
So together, we can continue.
Now Captain Tom's family wants the 100-year-old's legacy to march on.
Invent your challenge around the number 100. And you imagine if he was still here, he would just be thinking this was the best thing ever.
39. They teamed up with everyday folks
53
and some famous faces, including actress Judi Dench and soccer star David Beckham.
Last year, Captain Tom inspired us all
and filled the world with hope.
The challenge will play out over what would have been his 101st birthday.
So whatever you can do it 100 times and help raise money for charity.
You can do anything for the challenge, like bake 100 cakes, do 100 push-ups, or simply walk 100 steps. 1, 2, 3. Just make sure you don't pick something too difficult to complete.
This is not easy.
Captain Tom's grandson recommends to just keep it fun.
This is your opportunity to do something absolutely joyous when we're just coming out of this pandemic.
And remember, it's not just about getting to 100, but ensuring, as Captain Tom used to say, tomorrow will be a good day. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
You guys have a good day.